Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. Russia is threatening your life and mine more and more every day. First of all, Russia is deliberately attempting to wipe out the Ukraine's entire power infrastructure. Moscow's goal, say Vladimir Putin's chosen TV hosts and their guests, is to plunge Ukrainians into darkness, to freeze them, and to use winter as a weapon to destroy them. There's a further Russian goal: to get 20 million Ukrainians to flee their country, destabilizing all of Europe with a flood of refugees and taking one more step toward Russia's genocidal aim of wiping out the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian culture to make way for an expansion of the Ruski Mir, the Russian world. Starting November 15th, the Russians launched close to 100 rockets a day at Ukraine's power grid. It was the most intense barrage of rocket attacks in the entire 9-month war. Meanwhile, a Russian-made S-300 anti-aircraft missile landed in Przewodow, Poland, 4 miles from the Ukrainian border, hitting a grain drying center, overturning a truck loaded with grain, and killing 2 Polish grain workers. The fear was that this missile came from Russia and would trigger Article 5 in the NATO treaty. Article 5 requires that all 30 NATO members go to war if a single NATO member is attacked. So it was a relief early November 16th when Poland and NATO concluded that the S-300 was not fired by the Russians, but was probably a Ukrainian anti-aircraft missile gone astray, which means Article 5 will not be triggered. Why is the news that a Russian rocket has killed 2 workers in Poland scary? Because Joe Biden and our NATO allies are trying to keep the war in Ukraine from spilling beyond the boundaries of Ukraine and involving all of Europe. They are trying to make sure the Ukrainian war does not become a third world war, or worse, a nuclear war. So how are things going on the nuclear front? Not well. On the positive side, in his 3-hour meeting with China's President Xi Jinping in Bali on November 14th, Joe Biden extracted an agreement from Xi that, quote, a nuclear war should never be fought and can never be won, close quote. But that's not the nuclear approach being pitched in Russia. The Russian TV hosts who speak for Vladimir Putin are pushing for full-scale nuclear war, a radioactive Armageddon. Putin's TV hosts say that the war in the Ukraine has never been limited to the Ukraine. From the beginning, they say, this has been a war with NATO. In fact, they try to terrify their citizens with the claim that NATO forces could move into the Ukraine and invade Russia at any minute. Meanwhile, the Russians have embraced an idea first floated by Vladimir Putin at an international policy forum in Sochi on October 13th. As Russia's RT-TV summed it up, after a nuclear holocaust, we'll go to heaven as martyrs. Those who nuked us will go to hell. In other words, if humanity is exterminated, the Russians will win. Surely the Russians will be barbecued along with Americans, British, Germans, and the French. But that's not the way Putin and those who quote him see it. Russians think they will go to heaven because only Russia has a direct pipeline to God. Only Russia has the Russian Orthodox Church. On the other hand, say the official voices of Russian TV, NATO is satanic. November 12th, Russians demonstrated in a Moscow street calling for nuclear strikes on Washington. There were only a few hundred in the demonstration, but the fact is that the Kremlin is cultivating a mindset that accepts nuclear disaster, and more, a mindset that enthuses over war crimes. as pro-Kremlin Twitter user Vladlen Tatarsky is reported to have tweeted, quote, "We'll conquer everyone. We'll kill everyone. We'll loot whoever we need to." The RT TV show Beautiful Russia said about Russia's atrocities in the Ukraine, "Yes, that's how we are. We'll show you even more. Fear us." And the king of the Russian talk show hosts, Vladimir Solovyev, wants you to, quote, "live in fear of the great and mighty Russia," close quote. Says Solovyev, "If you think the Ukraine war will not come to you, you're wrong." For starters, Solovyev threatens 7 European countries: Poland, Germany, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and the 3 Baltic nations. But that's just the beginning. Igor Shatrov from Russia's Strategic Development Council said on the Russian TV show The Meeting Place, Monday, November 14th, that Russia finally has a historic chance to do away with the West. That way is apparently nuclear. This is Howard Bloom speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for the off button.